You're listening to the I Have Dreams Dammit podcast, a podcast about the realities of pursuing dreams. I'm your host, Lisa Murray, and let's get started.
Live from Los Angeles, California, this is the Lisa Murray Show, and with your host, Lisa Murray.
The day I felt like I really started living.
I don't have enough money to start this business.
I'm so tired. I hate it. I'm working all the time.
I'm not inspired when I'm worried about money.
Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all.
I'm so sick of all these positive people talking about dreams. What about money? Like, how am I supposed to get the money?
What it's really about, it's about you pursuing what makes you come alive. It's about continually connecting with that energy and just keep doing that. Keep going towards that. That's what it's about. Just need to give up. There's too many obstacles. I can't take this shit anymore. Ships are safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for.
It feels really good to be my own boss.
I have dreams, damn it! It's 2020. It's a new year. You're the same exact person, but it's a new year. And even though the bumper says live from Los Angeles, today I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've been out here since Christmas Day because I drove out here on Christmas Eve and there was like no traffic. It was great. And I came out here to see my mom and my uncle and to spend some time with some friends and also just to kind of clear my head. I really like going on road trips by myself because I get to catch up on my podcasts and my audiobooks. But mostly I just get to clear my mind because, you know, when you're flying, you've got to think about, okay, do I have the 3-ounce thing of shampoo, whatever. You're going through security, you're trying to figure out your carry-ons. But when I road trip it's like, I can just have bags in whatever way. It doesn't make sense. It's a bag inside of a bag, and then my shoes are just thrown in the back and whatever. And I just go at my own pace. And I'm able to really like think about stuff. And it's been very healing for me and very eye-opening. So I'm starting 2020 on a very clear note. I feel very clear. If you're having a hard time figuring out what you really want, or if you know what you really want, you get really strong on it and then you kind of forget it or it loses its potency as the weeks and months go by. One of the things that I do is I try to do the thing that reminds me or keep things around me that remind me of why. Why do I want to do it? Because I think it's human to kind of forget and get caught up in the day-to-day stuff, and you kind of go, oh, well, I got to pay this bill, and it's my friend's birthday, and I'm going to take them out to lunch, and then I got to go do this other thing, and we kind of dull our passions, really. And so that's why it's so important to have things around you or have behaviors or activities, things in your schedule, whatever it is that brings you back to your why. So I'm starting another podcast, which, of course, I have to be Mrs. Ambition, but you remember how I told you I wanted this podcast to originally be the death podcast because I wanted to talk about death. Ever since Derek and Michael died, I was like, I'm starting a death podcast. And everybody would look at me like, okay, cool. What do you mean? And everybody didn't look as excited when I originally said it. But I just had this burning feeling like people need to talk more about death. Because at the time when I was going through that was the only thing that really helped me was listening to people talking about death and premonitions and life after death, but then also just death, like dealing with the trauma of it or, whatever, if there was a mystery connected to it or something. It just helped me because it made me feel not so crazy and on an island by myself with these things and these thoughts and these feelings. So I really wanted to do that, and I kind of wanted to take away the stigma of like, you don't want to talk about it. Because I would start to talk about it with people and they would kind of get uncomfortable. Like, if you talk about it, that means you're going to die, And I'm like, no, it just means you're talking about it. And one day you're going to be there. You're going to be facing that, whether it's your parents or your friend or whatever. Someone is going to die in your life that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to either do the eulogy or you're going to have to organize or you're going to just be deeply affected by it. Somehow it's going to cut into your life. So this is going to affect all of us. And I want to help, push that forward and whatever. So after I started this podcast and I was getting down the road with it, I thought, this is more about like the pursuit of dreams and that pursuit of happiness and how you kind of keep it all together and keep moving forward and find those lessons in the hero's journey and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know how I would incorporate death. Well, so then I went to a death cafe. Have you heard of that? Okay, so a death cafe, go to deathcafe.com. So the Death Cafe was created by a gentleman named John Underwood. And it says on their Instagram profile, at Death Cafe, people talk about death over tea and cake. Over 9,500 death cafes have been held in over 66 countries. You can go to deathcafe.com if you'd like to have more information on that. But it's not a grief support group. It's not about religious beliefs or anything like that. It's just a place where you can talk openly about anything to do with death. And I thought, oh my God, that's my people. So I went to a death cafe and it was very good. I really felt like comfortable there because I always think like this because you can't talk about death without talking about life. And I don't believe you can really truly embrace and talk about life without embracing and thinking about or talking about or acknowledging death. Because to me, they're like, it's connected. Because if life is forever, you're going to have a totally different view on how you talk about life if there's no death. But if you know that there's a death and you just don't know when it is, but there's a death, that affects how you live. And you should think about that. And I really felt like it was one of the gifts that I did get from Derek and Michael dying was it woke me back up to that and made me remember, like, don't get it twisted. You're here for a specific period of time. You're not here forever. You're here for a very specific period of time and, use it wisely. Not to pressure myself, but to pressure myself just a little bit to kind of don't get complacent. Make sure that I'm aware that, okay, hey, I'm alive right now, but this isn't always the situation. So let me step up and let me do my stuff. Let me find that courage. Let me step out into my dreams and make these things happen. So when I was in the Death Cafe, and it varies. I mean, there was all different ages there. It was a small group. And some people were working the end of life care. And so that's their industry. So they're like a death doula or a hospice worker. And, this is their world. So of course they want to go somewhere and feel like they can talk about it. Some people have lost people and they want to be able to talk about that. And some people are facing their own terminal illness and maybe they're afraid of death or they have thoughts about their death and they want to discuss it with people who don't get depressed. That's a Death Cafe. Well, I've only been to one, so I can't say this is how they all are, but I have a feeling they're probably all pretty much, similar or the same. And I really enjoyed it and I'm definitely going to go to more. But it was funny because at one point I said I wanted to start a death podcast and they all were lit up and they go, yeah, I'd listen. Tell me what's it going to be or when's it going to be on? I'm like, oh my God. And then I was like, I really need to do this because there was something that was really important to me. And so in the last couple of weeks, I've been researching everything. I got the name, the domain name, and I got all these pieces together and I listed off all the topics that I want to talk about and getting my dream, list of people I want to interview and stuff like that. And then I'm like, I kind of waver and I think it's just a little bit of fear or whatever. I don't know. So after Derek and Michael died, there were so many things that happened, like paranormal type things, spiritual things, before they died, when they died, and after they died. That was healing to me, but it was also rocking my entire world. And I couldn't talk to anyone unless they were also going through it. And so sometimes I felt like if there was something really profound that had happened, like with Derek, if I had a really major dream, I'd feel bad mentioning it to someone that was also close with him, because then they would say, oh, I haven't had any dreams about him yet. And I was like, oh, gosh, I feel bad. I don't know, am I just more open to it? Are they just not remembering their dreams? I don't know. So it got where it was weird to even talk about these things with the people that are very close with the people that were lost as well. So I just have always been interested in life after death and near-death experiences and things like that. But it really peaked at that time. And there was this book by Bonnie McGeeney. I'm not sure how to say her last name. It's called Messages, Signs, Visits, and Premonitions from Loved Ones Lost on 9/11. And basically it was like all these people that work in this office together on the 105th floor of the North Tower. And it was her husband was one of the people. And just all these things that had happened before the plane hit the building on that day, like where they had a feeling they were going to die, or they had certain dreams, or family members did, or whatever. It's very interesting. So things that happened right before, things that happened as it was happening without their knowledge of what was actually happening, and then after. And it was just very, very healing to me. And I was like, you know what? Let me go back to that book, because that was one of the books that really like surged this purpose in me, that I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to bring this podcast. I've got to do this. Okay. So I was looking up, the author, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should interview her and see if I can get an interview with her. So I'm researching, trying to find her information, and I run across this interview of her, and it filled me back up with the purpose again. It was totally clear again of like, yes, this is why I want to do this. And then I thought, okay, this is what I want to talk to you guys about today. It's the beginning of the year, and you might be excited. Maybe you've had some time off of work, so you finally were able to think your own thoughts, and you're very clear on what you want to do. But as this first week back, a lot of people are just going back to work this week. This first week back, and as the next few weeks start to roll out, it's going to be really easy to forget some of those insights that you got over the holiday break. It's going to be really easy to sort of minimize that whatever it is that you wanted to do was important to you. And I just want to remind you, and I want to be a constant reminder to you, not to minimize it and not to forget it. I want you to keep reconnecting to it. I want you to make it important, because it is important. It's connected to your happiness, and it's connected to your soul, and like maybe even why you're here. And maybe not manifesting it, but just exploring it and, having the journey of trying to manifest it. All of that is for you. And I don't want you to forget that, because you're not here just to work to pay your bills. That's not why you're here. There's a deeper purpose, and it doesn't even have to be work. Your dream does not have to be work related. It could be you want to be a mom, or, you want to help people, even though you would get paid for that. So it's not really work, but I mean, it is work. But maybe you just want to help people in hospice situations. It doesn't have to be this big career thing. It doesn't have to be that. Some people have that. Some people are like, I want to run this business. I see it internationally, and that's great. But that's not even the point. The point is whatever that thing is inside of you that makes you come alive. What is that? Maybe you just want to get in really good shape, like you want to work out and you want to have like a really healthy body, and that's really important to you. But I do think that there's something about the hero's journey. And yes, I do believe it could be something like I want to work out and get in shape. But as soon as I said that, I thought the only thing about that is that it's not giving back. The elixir in the hero's journey is about giving back to humanity. So that's the only thing I would think about, is that whatever this thing is that you really want to do, I think there should be some element about it that gives back. Because yes, the first part is probably like, in the airplane, put the mask on yourself before you're helping somebody else. But be thinking in your mind, how am I serving humanity with this? So like for the Death Talk podcast, I really want to help a person that is experiencing death and is totally lost because it was a world they never even thought about before. They never thought about it. And they're just stumbling around and they happen to bump into my podcast. That's the person that I keep in my mind as I'm recording these and as I'm scheduling interviews and doing all this stuff. That's who I'll have in my mind, and that's what will help me come back to why I want to do it. There has to be some kind of element of giving back or service to someone else, even if it's like a version of myself right before Derek died or right after Derek died. That's who I'm trying to make this podcast for. So it's like me in the past. So be thinking about things that you can do that get you into an immediate state of remembering what your dream is, what your passion is, whatever this thing is. Sometimes I'm trying to think, like you could have, obviously quotes or photos up. You could follow accounts on Instagram or YouTube that are connected to your dream. And so you could even have a whole account that the only accounts you follow on that account. So let's say you have an Instagram account that's your personal account. You could have another account that's just for your dream, and maybe you only post there every now and then, but it's more about you opening it and looking at only people that are connected to inspiring you for your dream. So you don't have, people from work that you felt obligated to follow. You actually only have people or accounts that reflect back to you something that excites you about life and about your vision for your future. And, be feeding that part of yourself because it needs to be fed. It's not going to be able to do all these things. You're not going to be able to stay on this path without something to sustain it, because regular life pulls so much from us. You have to figure out what is it that keeps you going. And I would love to hear from you if you have some things that keep you going. And we had an episode before, what inspires you. And that's good. But this is deeper than inspiration, because this is more about what keeps you on the path. What keeps you connected to your dream? Very specific. So for me, listening to this interview, maybe even rereading that book. Another thing I'm probably going to do, I just thought about this. I want to pull up my written journals. Oh, and I also have audio journals of right after Derek died, because I was in a lot of pain. And that'll help me too to see that. Because, now that I'm kind of quote unquote healed, you never fully heal from loss, but healed from the trauma and from the sensitivity of everything and just the horror of it all, I'm forgetting a little bit. It's kind of like childbirth. You give birth to a child and then you're like, I don't know, it wasn't really that bad. It's like, yes, it was. You had to have an epidural, for crying out loud. It was really bad. But, it's just, there's something like that. It's like a, I don't know, a survival mechanism or something. But it's like we do kind of forget how bad it was, or forget why somebody would need something. Well, not everybody needs a death podcast. I mean, come on. And then on top of it, as I'm researching, I find out there's a couple really cool death podcasts already out there. But I had already researched this before and I didn't find anything. And I was looking. I had been looking for like a year or two and I've never found anything. And all of a sudden, now that I'm actually starting to put the pieces out there, I found 2 that are like really cool sounding and that I like them so far. And I'm like, great, maybe I don't need to do it. But then I do need to do it because it's still me. It's still me doing the podcast. You know what I mean? Like it'd still be me doing. So anyways, some other tools I would recommend is starting a journal, and you can do a video journal on your phone. You can do an audio journal on your phone, or you can do a written journal. You can either do that on your phone in the Notes app, or you can actually handwrite it in a notebook. And, it's a perfect time to start because it's like the new year and, you're kind of starting fresh, but you can start anytime. Anytime you want to start is a new start. So there's that. One tip I do with my audio journals is, because with the iPhone, I don't know if it still does it because I haven't imported any for a while, but one of the things I do, it messes up the date is what I'm trying to say. So when I start an audio journal, I always say, today is, Saturday, January, whatever, at this time. And then I like to say the temperature because I've noticed that I have a certain mood when it's over a certain amount of degrees. It has to do with growing up in Arizona and being hot and all that kind of stuff. I mean, some people are very happy when it's like 85 and I'm totally miserable. And when it's raining, I'm usually really happy and clear. And it's just interesting for me to like listen to that. I'm like, that's really weird. I'm really like positive and clear when it's raining, and I'm really kind of weird when it's sunny. So anyways, that was just more for a personal thing, but definitely say maybe the day and the date and the time. And the reason why I say the time is because sometimes like a phone call will come in and the recording will get cut off and I'll do another one. So I'll now have 2 of them on the same date. So if I put the time in there, that kind of makes sense. And I can put them in, chronological order. Or sometimes I'll make a, entry in the morning when I'm on my way to a meeting, and then I'll do another entry later on before I go to bed. So it's just kind of nice to see, okay, so this was 8 o'clock in the morning and this one's 8 o'clock at night. Okay, I got it. If you have any ideas for things that you do to stay connected to your dream, I would love to hear what it is and be able to share it with listeners. I would love it if you wanted to record a voice recording on your phone and email it to ihavedreamsdammit@gmail.com. Or you could just, send me a message and let me know if it's okay if I use it on air. I'm not sure when I will use it, but I'm sure it will help somebody. So I really like to use that. Do you keep pictures up around your desk? Do you listen to a certain song every day? Do you have a day, one day every week that you dedicate to your dream, or half a day or an hour? Make sure you designate time out for your dream, because that's the other thing. Life will just come and take your day away from you. And next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it's nighttime. Like I haven't even done anything. So make sure you schedule it like you would schedule a doctor's appointment. Make it that important to you. Because I have a really hard time with that, because I'm always like, taking care of all these other things and, multitasking and all this stuff. And I always figure, I'll figure out when to do that. I'll just put it over there. I'll squeeze it in. If I don't schedule it, it won't get done most times. And also, honestly, like, the culprit, like the big thing that fights against that is I like to live in the moment. And I like, especially with my podcast and recording stuff that comes from a place of inspiration, I don't like scheduling stuff like that. But even if I just say, I'm going to spend an hour on this, it doesn't mean I'm going to record during that time, but maybe I'm going to tweak some stuff on the website or whatever. I need to know that I have those times. And then also putting deadlines there, saying, I really want the podcast to go out either on Tuesday or Wednesday. That helps me go, okay, that means I already know when I have a full day on Tuesday and I'm driving back to, back home on Wednesday. So I've got to take care of this on Monday. So that helps too, if I sort of put those hard lines on it as well. Thanks for listening, guys. And 2020 is going to be the year that you're going to continue being you. And you're going to put maybe a little bit more attention to the miracle that is our lives. I mean, it's really an amazing thing. Everything, like, what is the Albert Einstein quote? Like, that everything either is a miracle or nothing's a miracle. And either everything is something we can learn from or nothing is. Thanks for listening, you guys. Have a great week. Bye-bye.